What if the questions you avoid are the ones that could actually set you free? We spend so much of life chasing answers, answers about success, about love, about happiness. But Nietzsche reminds us of something uncomfortable. The real danger is not in having the wrong answers, but in never daring to ask the right questions at all. Think about it. How many times have you silenced a thought before it even fully formed, because you knew it would pull you into a place you didn't want to go? How often have you distracted yourself? With noise, with routine, with comfort, just to avoid facing the questions that sit in the shadows of your own mind. Nietzsche believed that we don't grow by collecting answers, but by standing face to face with the questions that unsettle us. The questions that feel heavy, the questions that refuse to leave us untouched. He called these questions hammer blows because they shatter illusions, even the ones we cling to for safety. And here's the unsettling truth. The questions you've been running from are already shaping your life. If you avoid asking who you really are, then you end up living by the mask you wear. If you avoid asking what you truly fear, then fear itself makes the decisions for you. So maybe the path to freedom isn't about finding the perfect formula or the perfect plan. Maybe it begins with the courage to stop hiding and to finally face the questions that whisper at the edge of your thoughts. This is what Nietzsche would want from you. Not blind obedience, not ready-made truths, but the courage to wrestle with 5 questions that have the power to strip away illusions and force you to see yourself clearly. Because once you hear them, once you let them echo in your mind, you can't unhear them. And that is exactly why they matter. Setting the stage, Nietzsche didn't hand out answers like a teacher grading a test. He didn't believe in giving people neat little truths to memorize. Instead, he gave provocations, challenges, sparks that forced you to think, to wrestle, to doubt. He believed that the strongest minds aren't the ones that know the most, but the ones willing to stand in the fire of difficult questions without running away. And that's the spirit of this journey. This video is not about me giving you Nietzsche's philosophy tied up with a bow. It's about something far more dangerous and far more alive. You're about to step into 5 questions that Nietzsche would want you to face, not to nod along with, not to store away like trivia, but to actually wrestle with, to carry with you into your choices, your relationships, your failures, and your moments of silence. Because Nietzsche's questions were never meant to comfort. They were meant to disturb, to shake you awake, to make you see the illusions you've built around yourself and wonder what might be left if they all collapsed. So take this less as a lecture and more as an invitation into the arena of your own mind, where the fight is not against the world, but against the parts of yourself that fear the truth. By the end, you may not have answers, but if you're willing, you'll walk away with something far more valuable. Questions powerful enough to change the way you see your life. The war within. For Nietzsche, the greatest battle is not fought on battlefields or in politics. It's not against enemies we can point to outside ourselves. The deepest struggle is always inward. This is the war within. It's the quiet war we wage every day, without realizing it. Against our own fears, our excuses, our longing for comfort, and our desperate need to belong. Nietzsche believed that most people live their lives in a kind of sleep, blind to this inner struggle because it hides behind things that look harmless. Take self-deception. It whispers, "You'll start tomorrow. You're not ready yet. You'll fail anyway." And we believe it because it feels safe or comfort. We choose the easy path, not because it fulfills us, but because it spares us from effort, from risk, from pain. And comfort, once chosen, becomes a cage we decorate to look like freedom. And then there's conformity. the pressure to bend ourselves into shapes that others approve of. We obey without noticing, follow without questioning, and slowly, we become strangers to ourselves. Nietzsche saw all of this as the true enemy. The self turned against itself. A spirit that prefers safety over strength, illusion over reality, imitation over authenticity, and until you see this war, until you recognize that the first step, then, is not victory. It's awareness. To admit that the battlefield is not out there, but in here, in your thoughts, your choices, your hidden motives. And the question is, will you continue to serve the forces of comfort and deception? Or will you enter the struggle Nietzsche believed was the only one worth fighting? The struggle to overcome yourself? Questions that cut. We live in a world hungry for answers, quick fixes, simple truths. A quote here, a piece of advice there. Something to calm the discomfort of not knowing. But Nietzsche never trusted easy answers. For him, the real power was in the question. Because a question unsettles. It doesn't soothe you. It disturbs you. It gets under your skin. It forces you to stop pretending that everything is fine. Answers are like masks. They cover the face of truth, make it look neat and acceptable. But questions, real, sharp questions, rip those masks apart. They expose the raw skin beneath. They leave you staring at yourself without disguise. When you ask, am I living for myself or only for approval? There's no easy answer that can save you. The question itself breaks the illusion. When you ask, what am I avoiding because I fear it will change me? You already feel the truth pressing against you. Nietzsche knew that a life without these kinds of questions is a life lived asleep. Comfortable, maybe, but untested, unformed. So the challenge is not to collect answers that make you feel good. It's to face the questions that make you uncomfortable. Because those questions don't just reveal who you are. They reveal who you might become. What mask am I wearing today? Every day, without even noticing, we reach for a mask. It might be the mask of confidence when inside we're uncertain, the mask of politeness when we'd rather speak our mind, the mask of success when we're quietly struggling. Nietzsche was obsessed with masks, not just the kind we wear for others, but the ones we wear for ourselves. He believed most people don't even know who they are, because they've been hiding behind roles, habits, and expectations for so long that the mask has fused with the skin. Think about it. At work, you become one version of yourself. With family, another. With strangers, maybe a softer, safer version. You change your tone, your words, even your laughter depending on who's in front of you. But here's the dangerous part. Over time, you forget that it's a mask. You begin to believe it is you. And in doing so, you hide the raw, unpolished truth of yourself, not just from others, but from your own eyes. Why do we do it? Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being exposed for who we really are. So we cover ourselves with layers of acceptance, manners, and compromise. Nietzsche saw this as one of humanity's greatest tragedies. The self buried alive under the performance of the self. So the question isn't just, what mask am I wearing today? The question is, do I even remember the face beneath it? Each morning, before you step into the world, try asking yourself one simple but piercing question: which part of me today is real, and which part is disguise? It sounds small, but it's not. Because most of us live half-hidden. We put on a smile when we're tired. We nod in agreement when we disagree. We act confident when inside we're uncertain. These disguises become so natural that we forget we're even wearing them. Nietzsche warned that the greatest danger is self-deception. Not the lies others tell us, but the ones we tell ourselves. When you ask this question, you pull at that deception. You notice the little cracks. The moment you say yes when you wanted to say no. The silence you keep because honesty feels risky. The polite mask that hides your real face. This is not about tearing every mask off at once. It's about awareness. If you can see the disguise, you are no longer fully trapped in it. Even a glimpse of the real beneath the mask is enough to remind you there is more to you than the roles you play. So tomorrow, before the day takes you over, look in the mirror and ask, what in me is real and what is disguise? The answer may unsettle you, but it will also bring you closer to the truth of who you are. Ask yourself this question: am I choosing comfort over growth? Nietzsche believed that comfort is the silent enemy of becoming. Not because rest is bad, but because when comfort becomes our compass, we stop moving forward. Growth demands friction. It demands resistance. Yet most of us, without realizing it, structure our lives to avoid difficulty at all costs. Think about it. Do you take the shortcut instead of the long road? Do you silence yourself in a conversation to avoid conflict? Do you stay in the job, the relationship, the routine? Not because it fulfills you, but because it feels safe. Each of these decisions seems small, harmless, but stacked together, they form the architecture of your life. Nietzsche reminds us, greatness isn't found in the easy choice. It's born in struggle, in choosing the path that asks more of you. Growth is uncomfortable precisely because it requires you to stretch beyond what you are. The pain of lifting weight is the price of strength. The fear of speaking truth is the cost of authenticity. The risk of failing is the gateway to creation. The danger is not that you'll collapse under hardship. The danger is that you'll never test yourself against it. That you'll slowly shrink into the walls of your comfort until one day you realize you never lived beyond them. So every choice is a fork in the road. The ease that keeps you the same, or the discomfort that reshapes you. And the question that matters isn't, which one feels good now, but which one will make me more tomorrow than I am today. When you begin to see life this way, comfort is no longer the default. Growth becomes the standard. And each small, daily decision becomes an answer to Nietzsche's challenge. Will you stay asleep in comfort, or wake up in the fire of becoming? How often do you avoid difficulty just to feel safe? It sounds like a simple question, but if you answer honestly, it can be uncomfortable. Most of us are experts at dodging struggle. We choose the easy task instead of the hard one. We bite our tongue instead of speaking the truth. We stay where it feels familiar instead of stepping into the unknown. And each time we do, we trade growth for safety. Nietzsche would say that this is the quiet tragedy of modern life, not that people fail, but that they never risk enough to truly live. Safety feels like protection, but it can also be a cage. The walls are soft, but they are still walls. The irony is, the very difficulties we avoid are the ones that would sharpen us. The argument you never had could have built your courage. The challenge you didn't take could have revealed your strength. The failure you escaped could have taught you resilience. So ask yourself, if you keep avoiding difficulty, what kind of life are you building? One that feels safe or one that feels alive? Because in the end, safety is temporary. Growth, if you choose it, stays with you forever. Do I dare create or only consume? It's a question that strikes deeper than it first appears. Every day we are flooded with things to consume: news, videos, opinions, entertainment. We scroll, we watch, we listen. It feels like engagement, but often it's just absorption. We take in what others have made, but rarely stop to ask, what have I brought into existence today? Nietzsche believed that the highest human act is creation, not comfort, not imitation, but the courage to shape something new out of yourself. To create is to declare, I will not simply inherit the world, I will add to it. Consumption keeps you safe. It asks nothing of you but your attention. But creation demands something much greater: effort, vulnerability, risk. When you write, build, paint, speak, or even think in a new way, you expose yourself. You put a piece of your inner world into the outer one. And that, Nietzsche would argue, is where real life begins. The difference between consumption and creation is also the difference between drifting and becoming. Consuming is passive. It lets life carry you along like a leaf on water. Creating is active. It's swimming against the current, shaping the flow, leaving behind a trace that didn't exist before you. So, ask yourself honestly, when you look back at your days, are they filled with what you've consumed or with what you've created? Which one defines you? Because in the end, only creation leaves a mark. Consumption disappears the moment it's done, but creation, no matter how small, changes both you and the world. Am I building something with my life, or just feeding on what others built? It's an uncomfortable question, but one worth asking. Most of us spend our days surrounded by things someone else created. The technology we use, the ideas we repeat, the entertainment we consume. We stand on foundations that others laid. And while there's nothing wrong with that, the danger comes when we never add anything of our own. Nietzsche warned against living as mere inheritors, people who take from the world but never give back to it. To build is not only about grand monuments or great works. It can be something as small as creating your own ideas, shaping your own path, or leaving behind something that bears your name, not just another's. Feeding on what others built may keep us comfortable, but it leaves us hollow. Building, on the other hand, requires vision, struggle, and courage. It asks us to risk failure in order to leave behind even the smallest mark of our existence. So the question lingers like a mirror. When the story of your life is told, will it read as a list of things you consumed, or as evidence of something you built? What fear still commands me? Nietzsche believed that fear enslaves us more deeply than any law, any authority, or any moral code. Outwardly, we might look free, able to choose, able to speak, able to live as we wish. But beneath the surface, fear whispers commands we obey without question. Fear of rejection keeps us silent when we want to speak. Fear of failure stops us from chasing the things we secretly dream about. Fear of change ties us to routines that slowly drain the life out of us. These fears rarely announce themselves loudly. Instead, they hide in small hesitations, in the excuses we make, in the safe choices we repeat every day. The real chains are invisible. They're not locked around our wrists, but around our will. And as long as we follow fear's orders, we remain prisoners, even when no one else is holding the key. So ask yourself, what fear still commands me? And what would my life look like if I stopped obeying it? Which fear secretly rules me right now? It's a piercing question because most of the time we don't admit it. We like to think we're in control, that our choices are guided by reason or by freedom. But underneath, there is almost always a hidden fear steering the wheel. Maybe it's the fear of being seen as weak, so we overcompensate with pride. Maybe it's the fear of being alone, so we cling to people or roles that no longer fit us. Maybe it's the fear of failure, so we aim lower than what we're truly capable of. Fear doesn't always stop us directly. Sometimes it disguises itself as comfort, as being realistic, or as waiting for the right time. But if you look closely, you can see its fingerprints on the decisions you avoid, on the words you swallow, on the life you delay living. So, which fear secretly rules me right now? That question isn't meant to make you shrink back. It's meant to bring the shadow into the light. because the moment you name your fear, it loses half its power. Who am I becoming through my choices? Nietzsche believed we are not fixed beings. We are not carved in stone, destined to remain the same forever. Instead, we are always in motion, always becoming. And the shape of that becoming isn't random. It's sculpted by the choices we make every single day. Think about it. Every decision, no matter how small, is a step on a path. Choosing comfort again and again slowly shapes a person who avoids risk, who fears the unknown. Choosing challenge, even in small doses, slowly shapes a person who grows stronger, who learns to stand taller against life. This is what Nietzsche called Selbstüberwindung, self-overcoming. The act of not just living, but actively shaping who you are again and again, by overcoming your own limits, fears, and excuses. It's not about reaching a final perfect version of yourself. It's about refusing to stay still, refusing to be trapped in who you were yesterday. The truth is, you are never just you. You are always in the making. With each choice, what you do, what you say, even what you stay silent about, you're building the future version of yourself. The only question is, are you becoming someone you respect, someone who is stronger, freer, more honest? Or are you slowly becoming someone smaller than what you could have been? Who am I becoming through my choices? That question cuts deep, because it reminds us that nothing is neutral. Every act, every habit, every compromise is shaping us. And if we don't ask this question, we risk waking up one day as someone we never intended to be. Am I moving towards strength? Or am I quietly collapsing into weakness? This is not a question we like to ask ourselves. It's easier to assume that life is just happening, that we're fine, that tomorrow will take care of itself. But Nietzsche would remind us, every day, you are either building strength or letting it slip away. Strength doesn't only mean muscles or power. It means clarity. It means the courage to speak truth, the discipline to stand firm, the will to act when it would be easier to stay silent. Weakness, on the other hand, creeps in quietly. It shows up in the little excuses, the endless delays, the times we choose comfort when we know we should choose effort. The hard part is, collapse doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly. One ignored challenge at a time, one avoided risk at a time, and before we notice, weakness has already taken root. So the real question isn't whether life is moving us forward or backward. The question is, through my choices, through my habits, through my silences, am I moving toward strength, or am I quietly collapsing into weakness? The weight of these questions is not in the answers. It's in the struggle they demand. Nietzsche never intended them to be solved like puzzles. They are not problems with neat solutions. They are mirrors held up to your soul, reflections that shift every time you dare to look again. You don't answer them once and move on. You wrestle with them, again and again, because each season of life brings a new layer of truth and a new layer of disguise. The question, what mask am I wearing today? Or, am I choosing comfort over growth? Isn't something you settle forever. It's something you carry, like a fire that refuses to go out. These are not judgments, not commands, not accusations. They are invitations. Invitations to step beyond the surface, to cut through the lies we tell ourselves, to see deeper than yesterday. That is their weight and their gift. They remind us that becoming is never finished, and that the real work of life is not in answers, but in daring to keep asking. Nietzsche once said, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." What did he mean? That the deeper a person's soul, the less it can be shown raw to the world. We all wear masks, not just to hide, but sometimes to protect what is most fragile, most sacred inside us. The mask can be politeness, a role we play, or even strength we don't yet fully have. But behind it lies the truth of who we are becoming. Nietzsche reminds us that masks are not always lies. They are shields, disguises, even tools that let the spirit survive until it is strong enough to stand bare. The question is not whether you wear a mask, but whether you know which one you're wearing and why. Once you ask these questions, you can't unask them. They stay with you. They echo in the back of your mind when the world goes quiet. They rise in moments of doubt, of fear, of choice. They do not leave you unchanged. They follow you. They haunt you. And if you allow them, they begin to shape you. Not with easy answers, but with sharper vision. They strip away illusions. They show you where you are hiding, where you are settling, where you are slowly slipping into weakness. This is the gift Nietzsche leaves us. Not comfort, but confrontation. The choice is always yours. You can turn away, bury the questions, distract yourself with noise, and stay numb. Or you can face them. You can let them press against you, unsettle you, force you to see what you've been avoiding. And if you do, you may find that the very questions you feared are the ones that set you free. So ask yourself, will you step back into comfort, or will you walk forward into becoming? Before we end, let's take a pause, a breath, a space to let the weight of these questions sink in. Nietzsche never wanted us to be comfortable. He wanted us to stand at the edge of ourselves, staring into the unknown, daring to ask what most people never will. That is where freedom begins, not in neat answers, not in borrowed truths, but in the raw courage to wrestle with the questions that tear us apart. The world will always try to hand you ready-made answers, identities, roles, rules. But the deepest freedom is something else entirely. It is the freedom to think for yourself, to face your own masks, to uncover your hidden fears, to live as a becoming, not a fixed shadow. As Nietzsche said, the greatest freedom is not in answers, but in daring to ask the questions that tear us apart. This is The Thought Foundry. Until next time, keep asking.